The savory aroma of roasted meat filled the cozy kitchen of Anna Bennett's suburban Chicago home. At 60, Anna had devoted her life to being a dutiful wife, a caring mother, and a perfect homemaker. Every movement she made while preparing dinner was deliberate and meticulous, from how she sliced onions into thin, uniform pieces to the careful marination of the beef using a cherished family recipe passed down from her mother. The dining table was impeccably set, adorned with a cream-colored tablecloth, white porcelain plates, and a vibrant vase of red carnations at the center, all part of Anna's effort to create a warm evening for her family. She stood before the living room mirror, smoothing her neatly combed silver hair and checking her apron for stray flour. Anna's eyes held a flicker of pride but were tinged with weariness. How long had it been since she truly saw herself not as James's wife, not as David's mother, but as Anna, a woman who once harbored grand dreams? She shook her head, dismissing the fleeting thought, and smiled at her reflection. Tonight will be excellent, she reassured herself. The front door swung open, and the house filled with lively chatter. David, Anna's 32-year-old son, entered with his wife Sarah. Following them was James, Anna's husband, returning with his usual tired expression from his law office. With her glossy blonde hair and sharp smile, Sarah exuded an energy that Anna admired and found intimidating. She had a knack for drawing attention, from her form-fitting dresses to the confident way she spoke, carrying the ambition of a young lawyer. "Hi, Mom," David said, giving Anna a quick kiss on the cheek before sitting at the table. His brown eyes, so like hers, seemed to avoid her gaze lately. On the other hand, Sarah offered only a curt nod, her lips pressed together as if holding something back. James, as always, silently pulled out his chair, his eyes glued to his phone. Anna brought the roast to the table, setting it down with pride. "This is the beef roast I've been preparing all day," she said, her voice gentle but laced with anticipation. "I hope you all enjoy it." Sarah raised an eyebrow, picked up her knife and fork, and cut a small piece of meat. She chewed slowly, then abruptly stopped, placing her fork down with a soft but deliberate clink that drew everyone's attention. She looked directly at Anna, her cold blue eyes glinting sharply. "Honestly, Anna," she began, her tone even but dripping with sarcasm, "this is inedible. I don't know how David survived his childhood eating food like this." Sarah's words were like a stone thrown into a still lake, shattering the warm atmosphere Anna had worked so hard to create. The dining room fell silent. David lowered his head awkwardly, stirring his mashed potatoes, avoiding his mother's eyes. James sighed and continued cutting his meat as if nothing had happened. Anna stood frozen still, clutching the serving tray, her heart constricting. Sarah's comment wasn't just criticism, it was an insult. A dagger plunged into the years of sacrifice, the hours spent in the kitchen, the love poured into every dish to nurture her family. She fought back the burning sensation in her eyes, took a deep breath, and forced a strained smile. "Maybe next time we should order takeout," she said, her voice trembling barely above a whisper. Sarah smiled a smile devoid of warmth. "Great idea, Mom. That way no one has to pretend to enjoy your cooking." She exchanged a glance with David, as if sharing a secret Anna wasn't privy to. David merely shrugged, saying nothing, but his silence felt like another betrayal. James, as usual, quickly changed the subject, asking Sarah about a case she was working on. The conversation resumed, but Anna felt detached from the scene. She brought out the dessert tray, maintaining a calm facade, but her eyes drifted to the framed photos on the dining room wall. One captured her younger self standing before the Chicago Art Institute, her smile radiant and eyes brimming with dreams. Professors had once praised her as highly promising, but she had left it all behind to marry James, to become the family's backbone. Another frame held the deed to a downtown Chicago apartment, a gift from her late father, still in her name, despite her marriage. It was the same apartment where David and Sarah had lived rent-free for 3 years. As dinner ended, Anna stood in the kitchen, washing more forcefully than necessary. The sound of running water drowned out the chatter from the living room, where Sarah laughed brightly with James. Anna caught her reflection in the kitchen window, a woman with sunken eyes and slouched shoulders, a shadow of her former self. "When did I disappear?" she wondered, feeling like she was facing a stranger. Suddenly her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. David's name flashed on the screen. Anna answered, hoping for an apology, a hint of comfort from her son. But David's voice on the other end was cold, impatient. "Mom, Sarah and I need to borrow your credit card for some furniture. We'll pay you back next month." The request was familiar. They had borrowed money from her before, with promises of repayment that never materialized. The rent-free apartment, the loans and their dependents were an invisible chain, binding Anna to the role of a mother who always gave. Her throat tightened. For the first time in years, a quiet anger stirred within her. "No, David," she said, her voice steady in a way that surprised her. I said no. Silence. Then David responded, his tone laced with shock and irritation. "What you're saying no because of what Sarah said. She was just being honest. You're always too sensitive." Anna hung up her hands, trembling, but not from fear. A different feeling was growing inside her, something powerful, almost like control. She looked up at the framed deed on the wall. "Mine," she whispered. "It's all mine." Let's follow Anna's journey as she faces insults and betrayal and seeks to reclaim herself. What do you think Anna will do next? Share your thoughts in the comments. The dim light of early morning filtered through the window curtains, casting soft shadows on Anna Bennett's face as she sat alone at the kitchen table. The coffee before her had gone cold, its steam long gone, much like the dreams she once cherished, now faded into faint memories. Anna had barely slept after the tense call with David the previous night. His words, "You're always too sensitive," echoed in her mind, sharp like shards of broken glass. But beyond the hurt, what kept her awake was the suffocating realization that she was trapped in her own life, a stranger in the home she had spent decades building. She stood and walked to the old bookshelf in the living room where relics of her youth were stored. Her fingers brushed over dusty art books before pausing at a blue leather-bound sketchbook. She opened it, revealing yellowed pages filled with old sketches, landscapes, portraits, and artistic ideas she had created as a student at the Chicago Art Institute. One sketch depicted a young woman by Lake Michigan, her eyes bright, holding a paintbrush as if grasping the world. "That was me," Anna whispered, the feeling both familiar and distant. She recalled those days when professors praised her talent, calling her a rising star in the art world. But love for James had led her to set it all aside. A simple wedding, a promise of eternal happiness, and years of being a wife, mother, and the woman behind the family followed. Anna didn't regret choosing her family, but now looking back, she wondered what was the cost of her sacrifice. She had traded her dreams to be what others needed, but did they truly value it? The doorbell snapped her back to reality. She closed the sketchbook, returned it to its place, and opened the door. Emily, her only trusted friend, stood there with a warm smile, holding a bag of pastries from their favorite bakery. "I saw the look in your eyes last night over the phone," Emily said, stepping inside. "Are you okay, Anna?" Anna offered a faint smile, leading Emily to the kitchen. As they sat with steaming cups of tea, Anna recounted the dinner, Sarah's insult, and David's cold call. Emily listened, her eyes filled with empathy. "Sarah was out of line," she said, her voice tinged with indignation. "But what worries me more is David. You've spent your life loving and protecting him, and he lets his wife talk to you like that." Anna nodded, her gaze distant. "I don't entirely blame David. Maybe I spoiled him too much, made him think I'd always be there, always forgive, always sacrifice." She paused, looking at her hands. She was once adept with a paintbrush, and is now calloused from cooking and cleaning. But this time I feel different. I don't want to keep going like this. Emily placed her hand on Anna's, squeezing gently. "You don't have to. You deserve to live for yourself, Anna, not for James David or you." Emily's words were like a breeze, igniting a small spark in Anna's heart. She thought of the downtown Chicago apartment, a gift from her late father, the only asset she kept in her name, untouched by James David and Sarah. It wasn't just property, a symbol of the independence she once had, and perhaps the key to reclaiming herself. That afternoon, Anna drove to downtown Chicago, stopping in front of the building where David and Sarah lived. The sleek glass-fronted high-rise stood in a prime location where property values had soared. Anna remembered the day she handed David the keys, hoping it would give him a stable start. Now she realized it wasn't a gift, it was another chain tying her to the role of a mother who gave without asking. She entered the lobby unannounced. The familiar security guard nodded, and Anna took the elevator to the 12th floor. Opening the apartment door, she was stunned by the changes. The beige walls she once painted were now a trendy deep green. Her modest furniture had been replaced with expensive pieces, a leather sofa, a walnut dining table, and abstract art hung throughout. No trace of Anna remained. Sarah had made it her own domain. Anna's eyes fell on a stack of papers on the coffee table in the living room. She frowned, noticing unpaid bills, credit card statements with thousands owed, a bank collection notice, and an installment contract for an expensive watch. Her heart raced. David and Sarah were living a lavish lifestyle they couldn't afford, all while relying on her generosity. The sound of the door lock clicked and David walked in. Upon seeing his mother, he froze, his expression shifting from surprise to irritation. "What are you doing here, Mom?" he asked coldly. "I was just passing by," Anna replied, keeping her voice steady, gesturing to the bills. "I saw these. Are you and Sarah okay financially?" David crossed his arms, his gaze hardening. "We're handling it. Not everything is your business." Anna felt as if she'd been slapped. "It might be my business, David, when you're living in my apartment without paying a dime in rent." David let out a bitter laugh. "So that's what this is about. You're checking up on us because Sarah told the truth about your cooking. God, Mom, grow up." His words were a final blow. Anna looked at her son, whom she had loved and protected for 32 years now, standing before her like a stranger. "I raised you better than this," she whispered, her voice catching. "No, you raised me to be a pushover just like you," David snapped. Thankfully, Sarah helped me see that. Anna turned away without another word. As she left the apartment, her heart shattered, but a small flame began to burn deep within. It wasn't anger, it was resolve. She would no longer be belittled or used. Sitting in her car, Anna glanced at the building one last time, a plan forming in her mind. This apartment, her property, would be the first step in reclaiming her life. Morning in suburban Chicago was cloaked in a thin fog, as if the city were hiding its secrets. Anna Bennett sat by the living room window, cradling a hot cup of coffee, her gaze drifting to the neighbors' houses, framed by white picket fences. The previous day's confrontation with David at the apartment had left a deep wound from his harsh words and the stark realization that she had become invisible in her own family. Yet beneath the pain, a smoldering flame began to flicker, not anger, but a fierce desire for change. Anna stood and walked to an old wooden table in the corner where a small wooden box held relics she rarely touched. Inside were mementos from her student days, a worn charcoal pencil, a paintbrush with hardened bristles, and a handwritten letter from her art professor, Mr. Thompson, whose ink had faded. "Anna, you have a rare talent. Don't let the world extinguish your flame." Reading those words felt like hearing the voice of an old friend, someone who believed in her more than she believed in herself. She closed the box, her heart heavy yet brimming with determination. Today, Anna refused to sink into sorrow. She donned a gray sweater, pulled on a knit cap, and drove to the office of Robert Hayes, her longtime lawyer. His office sat on a quiet downtown Chicago street, its large glass windows overlooking the bustling city. As Anna entered, Robert, a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and sharp eyes, greeted her with a warm smile. "Anna, it's been a while," Robert said, gesturing to a leather chair across his desk. "This isn't a social visit." Anna sat, taking a deep breath. "I want to talk about the downtown apartment, Robert. The one my father left me. I'm thinking of selling it." Robert raised an eyebrow, not out of surprise, but at the gravity in Anna's voice. "That's a valuable property, Anna, and I know David and Sarah are living there." "What's going on?" Anna recounted everything, the insult from Sarah at dinner, David's cold demeanor, and the unpaid bills she found in the apartment. She spoke calmly, but her hands clenched her thighs as if holding back a torrent of emotions. "I've given them so much, Robert. Not just the apartment, but my time, love, and sacrifices. They don't appreciate it. I don't want to be the one who only gives anymore." Robert nodded, jotting notes on a pad. "The apartment is in your name, Anna. You have complete control. But if you sell, you must formally notify David and Sarah. They might not react well." "I know," Anna replied, her gaze resolute. "But I've made up my mind. I must do this not for revenge, but to take back my life." After the meeting, Anna drove through Lincoln Park where vibrant red maples lined the streets. She stopped near Lake Michigan, stepping out to stand by the shore, the chilly breeze cutting through her. This was once her favorite spot as a young woman, where she'd sketch for hours, inspired by the waves and sunsets. She closed her eyes and let the memories flood days of freedom when she believed she could be anyone. But life had pulled her away, turning her into a wife, mother, and woman who put others' needs above hers. On the way home, her phone buzzed with a text from James. "Anna, you repurchased the wrong coffee. Pay attention next time." The brief message stung like a needle. James's minor criticisms had become a constant in their marriage, correcting how she folded clothes, sighing when she spoke out of turn. Anna once thought these were normal and had to accept them to keep the family happy. Now she saw how they had eroded her confidence, making her feel never good enough. She didn't respond. Instead, she turned on the car radio, a soft jazz tune easing her swirling emotions. At home, Anna received a call from Emily, her voice urgent and concerned. Anna, I heard something from Jane, our friend from the book club. Sarah's telling people you're not okay. She says you're showing signs of memory loss, acting strangely. Anna, this isn't normal. Anna's blood ran cold. What exactly did she say? She asked, her voice trembling. Emily hesitated. Sarah claims you're forgetful, irritable, and she's hinting you're having an affair with Tom, the widowed neighbor. She's even shown people some texts saying they're proof. Anna gripped the phone, feeling the ground shift beneath her. Tom was a kind neighbor, and she occasionally helped with his garden since his wife passed. The idea that Sarah would fabricate such a story filled her with anger and horror. But what hurt most was David's betrayal, her son, whom she had loved her entire life, allowing his wife to spread lies about her. I'll handle this, Anna said, her voice no longer shaking. Thank you for telling me. After hanging up, Anna sat on the sofa, staring blankly at the front yard. She thought of the years gone by, nights staying up with a sick David, standing in the cold to cheer at his games, quietly paying his tuition during tough times. All those sacrifices are now repaid with silence and betrayal. Yet deep within the smoldering flame, Anna felt the previous night flared brighter. She stood, grabbed her phone, and called Robert. I want to start selling the apartment immediately, she said firmly. Prepare everything needed. I don't want delays. As the call ended, Anna stepped to the window, gazing at the fog-covered street. She knew the road ahead would be tough. David and Sarah would resist. James might blame her, and Sarah's rumors could hurt more. But for the first time in years, Anna felt in control. The apartment wasn't just property, it was a symbol of the independence she had lost, and now she would use it to open a new chapter in her life. The Chicago evening brought a biting autumn chill, the Lake Michigan winds rattling the bare trees outside Anna Bennett's home. She sat in the living room, the glow from an old table lamp highlighting the lines etched on her face by time and recent wounds. On the table before her was a folder from her lawyer, Robert Hayes, containing documents about the downtown apartment, including the temporary agreement she signed for David and Sarah 3 years ago. Anna flipped through the pages, her fingers tracing the dry text, but a storm of emotions raged inside. Her conversation with Emily revealed Sarah's rumors, sharp daggers piercing Anna's heart. Sarah wasn't just insulting her cooking or exploiting the rent-free apartment, she was deliberately destroying Anna's reputation, painting her as an unstable, untrustworthy woman to friends and family. But what hurt most wasn't Sarah's lies, it was David's silence. Her son, once the center of her world, had chosen to side with his wife, ignoring 32 years of her love and sacrifice. Anna stood and approached the bookshelf where she kept old keepsakes. She pulled out a small framed photo of David as a child, grinning beside a scribbled drawing he made for Mother's Day. Mom is the best, he had written in red crayon, the letters clumsy but heartfelt. Anna smiled sadly, her finger brushing the frame. Where did you go, David? She whispered, as if speaking to someone no longer there. The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. James's name flashed on the screen. Anna hesitated but answered. His voice was cold, almost detached. Anna, I'll be at the office late tonight. Got a case to handle. You're on your own for dinner. No questions, no concern for what she was going through. Anna nodded, though he couldn't see. All right, James, she replied evenly. After hanging up, Anna sank onto the sofa, loneliness enveloping her. Her marriage to James was never a cinematic romance, but she had believed her devotion would build a happy family. Now she realized she had spent years pleasing James, becoming the wife he wanted while forgetting herself. His petty criticisms and dismissal of her feelings had slowly chipped away at her confidence, leaving her a shadow in her home. She stood, refusing to drown in sorrow. Anna opened her laptop, searching for information on Chicago's real estate market. Her apartment in a prime downtown location was now worth more than ever. Reading about the booming market felt like a door cracking open. Selling the condo wouldn't just bring financial independence, it would be a declaration that she was done being a sacrificial figure. Yet the thought made her pause. Selling meant severing a tie with David. Despite his betrayal, he was still her son. To clear her tangled thoughts, Anna decided to walk. She bundled up in a coat and scarf, stepping onto the quiet street. The lit homes amplified her solitude, but she paused as she passed Tom's garden, the widowed neighbor. His garden was meticulously tended with vibrant chrysanthemums glowing under streetlights. Since his wife's passing, Anna has helped to grow it, sharing peaceful afternoons, planting and chatting about simple things. Those moments were rare times she felt truly herself, unbound by her roles as wife or mother. But now that garden was the centerpiece of Sarah's vicious rumors. Anna thought of the fake texts Sarah showed others, the edited photos, turning innocent conversations into proof of an affair. She clenched her fists, a wave of injustice surging within. Sarah didn't just want the apartment, she tried to control Anna's life, to reduce her to a weak, manipulable figure. Back home, her phone buzzed with a text from Emily. "Anna, I heard more from Jane. Sarah told the book club you deliberately made things difficult at dinner, that you're jealous of her and David's happiness. She also mentioned you had issues with another man when you took that painting class 7 years ago." Anna's face flushed with anger, the painting class one of her few attempts to reclaim her passion. James's baseless jealousy had forced her to quit accusing her of inappropriate conversations with a classmate. In truth, those messages were about painting techniques, but James never believed her. Now Sarah was using that story to smear her, casting her as an unfaithful, unreliable woman. Anna stood before the bathroom mirror, staring into her eyes. They were no longer those of a submissive woman. Something was shifting, a strength she hadn't felt in years. She grabbed her phone and texted Robert, "Prepare the paperwork to sell the apartment. I want to start as soon as possible." Then she went to the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out a small box of old art supplies. She set it on the table, opening it to reveal hardened paintbrushes. A thought sparked. Perhaps it was time to reclaim the apartment and herself. Anna sat down, took a paper sheet, and began sketching. The lines were clumsy at first, but each stroke brought her closer to the young woman who once stood by Lake Michigan, believing she could conquer the world. That night, as Chicago slept, Anna continued sketching under the dim lamplight. Each stroke was a silent vow she would no longer be defined by lies or betrayal. The apartment, her art, and her future were hers, and she would fight to reclaim them. A drizzle fell over Chicago's streets, cloaking the city in a gray veil, mirroring Anna Bennett's heavy mood. Sitting in her car outside the downtown apartment, Anna gripped the steering wheel. Her eyes fixed on the high-rise where David and Sarah lived. Since deciding to sell the apartment, she had tried to maintain a cold calm, but deep down, the pain of her son's betrayal and Sarah's lies festered like an unhealed wound. Today, Anna wasn't here to check or confront, but to take a final step in reclaiming her life. A surprise visit, hoping to salvage some remnant of the mother-son bond they once shared. She stepped into the building's lobby, her small umbrella barely shielding the raindrops speckling her wool coat. The security guard recognized her, offering a slight smile, but Anna sensed his curious glance. Perhaps he too had heard the whispers about her, the unstable mother-in-law Sarah had painted in her narrative. Anna forced a smile and took the elevator to the 12th floor, feeling as though she were entering a battlefield she wasn't fully prepared for. The apartment door opened and Sarah stood there, her face flickering with surprise before settling into her usual confident demeanor. "Anna, what a surprise," Sarah said, her voice sweet, but edged with coldness. "You should have called. David's not here." She opened the door wider, as if inviting Anna in, but her eyes betrayed a guarded stance. Anna stepped inside, maintaining a calm exterior. The apartment felt even more alien than on her last visit. The abstract paintings on the walls had been replaced with large photos of Sarah and David on extravagant trips: Paris, Tokyo, the Maldives. Each image reminded them of the lavish lifestyle they sustained through Anna's generosity. Her gaze landed on a glass coffee table where a document caught her eye, a property valuation with a figure far higher than she'd imagined. Her heart quickened. Sarah and David weren't just living off her apartment, they were plotting to make it a tool for their ambitions. "Why the unexpected visit?" Sarah asked, crossing her arms and leaning against the kitchen counter, her expression challenging. Anna took a deep breath, meeting Sarah's eyes. She said, "I want to talk about the apartment," her voice steady but firm, "and about how you two are living in it." Sarah raised an eyebrow, a mocking smile curling her lips. "Oh, are you going to start charging rent? Or are you still upset about the dinner?" "Honestly, Anna, it's not worth making a big deal over." Anna felt her face flush, but she held back. "It's not about dinner, Sarah. It's about you spreading lies about me. telling people I have memory issues, that I'm having an affair with Tom. Do you think I don't know? Sarah's face stiffened momentarily, but she quickly regained her composure. What are you talking about? I'm just sharing what I've seen. You've been acting strange, forgetful, and spending a lot of time with that neighbor. Others have noticed, not just me. Sarah's words were like a slap, but Anna refused to be drawn into anger. Do you have proof, Sarah? Fake texts, edited photos. You're a lawyer, you know what those actions could lead to. Sarah gave a derisive laugh, but her eyes betrayed unease. Are you threatening me? That's Rich. David knows everything, and he's on my side. You should watch what you say. Her words were the final straw. Anna felt her heart constrict, but instead of sorrow, a cold clarity emerged. David, her son, had chosen to believe Sarah's lies rather than stand up for his mother. She turned and left the apartment without another word, but inside, a decision solidified more clearly than ever. Driving home, Anna passed the Chicago Art Institute. The familiar red brick buildings slowed her down, and she parked in the visitor lot. Stepping out, she watched young students crossing the quad with portfolios and easels, their faces alight with dreams. Anna remembered herself 30 years ago, walking this path, believing she could create masterpieces. But life had pulled her away, letting that dream fade in the years of being a wife and mother. She took out her phone and called Robert. I want to expedite the apartment sale, she said without hesitation. Do whatever's needed to start this week. Robert paused on the other end. Are you sure, Anna? This could cause a significant rift with David. Have you thought it through? I've thought enough, Anna replied, her eyes fixed on a group of laughing students outside the art building. This isn't about revenge. It's about taking back my life. At home, Anna went to the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out another old box, not her art supplies, but one containing letters and photos from her youth. She found a picture of her and James on their wedding day, both smiling brightly. But looking closer, Anna noticed her smile was slightly forced, as if she knew she was giving up a part of herself to enter that marriage. She set the photo down, feeling not regret, but a strange liberation. That night, Anna sat in the living room, the lamplight illuminating her sketches from the previous day. They weren't perfect, but each stroke carried a piece of her soul, something she had lost long ago. She opened her laptop, searching for community art classes. A course for adults at the Chicago Art Center caught her eye. It's time, she whispered to herself, registering without hesitation. As night fell, Anna stood at the window, watching rain fall on Chicago's streets. She knew the path ahead would be challenging: David's resistance, Sarah's lies, James's doubts. But for the first time in years, Anna felt fearless. The smoldering flame in her heart had become a torch ready to light her way to reclaiming herself. Early winter sunlight peeked through leafless trees in suburban Chicago, casting faint patches of light on the wooden floor of Anna Bennett's home. She stood before a new easel, holding a paintbrush, hesitating before a blank sheet of paper. It was her first morning attending an art class at the Chicago Art Center, but she had brought the easel home to practice. The initial brushstrokes were shaky and uncertain, but as the watercolor touched the paper, Anna felt a vibrant energy awaken, a sense of freedom she hadn't recalled in years. In the days following her confrontation with Sarah at the apartment, Anna had accelerated her plan to sell the downtown property. Her lawyer, Robert Hayes, began preparing the paperwork and contacting real estate agent Margaret Lee to appraise the apartment. Margaret, a sharp woman with short platinum hair, inspected the property and gave a figure that stunned Anna. Its value had doubled since she inherited it from her father. Chicago's market is hot, Anna Margaret said, her eyes gleaming as she spoke of trends. This apartment will sell quickly if we act fast. But Anna wasn't rushed. She wanted everything done discreetly, keeping David and Sarah unaware until it was finalized. She knew this decision wasn't just financial. It was a declaration, a turning point to break free from her role as a mother and wife who only sacrificed. Yet the thought of severing a connection with David still stung. Despite his betrayal, he was her flesh and blood, the boy who held her hand in the rain, begging for one more bedtime story. That afternoon, Anna visited an art supply store near downtown. The air was thick with the scent of oil paint and fresh paper, reviving memories of her student days. She bought a new set of watercolors, high-quality brushes, and a thick sketchbook. The cashier, a young woman with green-dyed hair, smiled as she wrapped the items. You look excited, she said. What are you going to paint? Anna paused, then smiled. I'm not sure yet. Maybe myself. The woman nodded, sensing the more profound meaning in her words. On the way home, Anna received a call from Emily, her steadfast friend in these dark times. Anna, I need to tell you something, Emily said, her voice low and serious. Sarah's still spreading lies. She told the book club you're deliberately making things hard for her, that you're jealous of her and David's happiness. She even mentioned you acting strangely like you're losing it. Anna gripped the phone, a chill running down her spine. What's she trying to do, Emily? Why won't she stop? Emily hesitated. I think she's scared of losing the apartment. Jane said Sarah bragged to some people that she and David planned to convince James that you're unfit to manage your assets. If they paint you as unstable, they could push James to control the apartment during the divorce. Emily's words were a revelation, clarifying Anna's suspicions. Sarah didn't just want to keep the apartment rent-free, she wanted to own or control it. She was willing to ruin Anna's reputation, even driving a wedge between her husband and son. Anger surged, but Anna quickly tempered it with cold clarity. Thanks, Emily, she said. I know what I need to do. That night, Anna sat in the living room, opening her laptop to document every detail about the apartment, the temporary agreement, David's unfulfilled promises to repay loans, and the unpaid bills she found. She also emailed Robert asking him to investigate Sarah's potential legal maneuvers to seize control of the apartment. I need proof I'm fully competent, she wrote, and I want to ensure no one can take what's mine. The next day, Anna visited Dr. Harriet Chen, a neurologist recommended by Robert. In the cozy clinic, Dr. Chen conducted a series of cognitive tests. Anna answered each question with intense focus, as if proving her worth to herself as much as to the doctor. After 2 hours, Dr. Chen smiled and nodded. Mrs. Bennett, your memory and cognitive abilities are normal, even above average for your age. There's no sign of impairment. Anna left with a confirmation letter in hand, feeling a small victory. The document wasn't just proof of her health, it was a weapon to protect her rights against Sarah's schemes. She stopped at a familiar cafe near Lake Michigan on her way home. Sitting by the window, watching the waves sparkle in the sunlight, Anna opened her new sketchbook and began to draw. She sketched the curves of the waves, blending blue with golden sunlight. Each stroke affirmed that she still had the capacity to create, to rediscover herself. At home, Anna received a text from James. I heard you went to David's apartment unannounced. What's going on, Anna? You're making a mess. The message wasn't surprising, but it confirmed Sarah had quickly reported to him. Anna didn't reply. Instead, she opened her laptop and checked an email from Margaret. The agent noted that a couple, a doctor and a professor, were interested in the apartment and were willing to pay above market price if they could view it soon. Anna gazed out the window at the sunset, painting Chicago's sky red. She knew selling the apartment would stir a storm in the family, especially with David, but she wasn't afraid of the prospect for the first time in years. She was walking her own path, and though it might lead to irreparable fractures with her son, she believed it was the price of reclaiming her freedom. Anna closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and whispered, "This is the first step, and I'm not turning back." Winter in Chicago cloaked the city in a biting chill, but inside Anna Bennett's suburban home, the atmosphere was warm with the scent of ginger cookies and the glow of twinkling candles. It was David's 33rd birthday, and Anna had spent the week preparing a surprise party for her son. Despite the lingering pain of David and Sarah's betrayal, Anna hoped a loving gesture might rekindle some spark of their old mother-son bond. She meticulously decorated the living room with golden ribbons, placed a 3-tier chocolate cake, David's favorite, on the dining table, and wrapped a special gift, a watch David had admired in a store window. Anna stood before the mirror, adjusting a dark green dress she rarely wore. Her eyes, no longer those of the submissive woman from months ago, held a spark of newfound confidence. The art classes at the Chicago Art Center helped her rediscover a part of herself. Dr. Harriet Chen's confirmation of her cognitive health bolstered her resolve to sell the apartment. Yet thinking of David still weighed on her heart. She wanted to believe he hadn't fully turned away, that somewhere inside him was the boy who hugged her tightly after every baseball game. The doorbell rang, pulling Anna from her thoughts. She smiled and opened the door to greet David and Sarah. David looked surprised, his eyes widening at the decorated room. "Mom, you did all this?" he asked, his voice catching slightly. Sarah offered a forced smile beside him, her gaze sweeping the room as if appraising it. "It's lovely, Anna," she said, but her tone lacked sincerity. The party began with a surface-level cheer. Anna served dishes. She had prepared herb-roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and fresh vegetable salad. She maintained her smile, though Sarah's every glance felt like scrutiny. James, as usual, arrived late and barely engaged, his eyes fixed on his phone. Anna realized his emotional absence had become a staple of their marriage. Anna entered the kitchen to check the cake as guests ate the main course. Voices from the living room drifted in, and she overheard a conversation between Sarah and her friend Lisa, a last-minute invitee. "I don't know how David puts up with these visits," Lisa whispered, her tone mocking. "The free apartment's worth it, but dealing with a mother-in-law like this—" Sarah gave a sly laugh, her voice low but clear to Anna. "It's the price of keeping the apartment. Anna's so easy to manipulate. See that watch? I suggested it, and she went right, no questions asked." She paused, then added smugly, "She needs to feel important, so a little attention does the trick." Anna froze in the kitchen, her hand gripping the counter, the floor seeming to crumble beneath her. Sarah's words weren't just an insult, they exposed a brutal truth. Anna had been used financially and emotionally. Her efforts to mend the family, to hold it together, were a game to Sarah. Anna took a deep breath, fighting back tears. She couldn't let Sarah see her weakness, not now. She brought out the cake, her forced smile masking the storm within. As Sarah cut the cake, she made another jab. "Let's hope this is more edible than the last roast, Anna." The comment drew chuckles from some guests, but David just looked down, silent. A fire flared in Anna's chest. She met Sarah's eyes, her voice calm but sharp. "If you don't like my food, Sarah, maybe you should cook in your own home." The room fell silent. Sarah blinked, clearly caught off guard by Anna's retort. She quickly regained her composure, turning to David with a shrill tone. "David, is your mom okay? She seems unwell." David pulled Anna aside, his voice low but tense. "Mom, what are you doing? You're making everyone uncomfortable." Sarah was joking. Anna looked into her son's eyes, searching unconditionally for the boy she loved. But before her stood a stranger who chose his wife over his mother. "Joking, David," she said, her voice trembling yet firm. "You call using me, lying about me, a joke?" Without waiting for a reply, Anna returned to the table, resuming her role as hostess, but inside a door had closed. The party ended earlier than planned. As guests left, Anna stood in the kitchen, surrounded by leftover food and unwashed glasses. She looked out the window at the streetlights dimming in the night. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. "Mom, we need to talk about your behavior tonight. Sarah's really upset. You should apologize." Anna stared at the message, then set the phone down without replying. Instead, she opened her laptop and accessed the real estate agent's website. Margaret Lee had emailed confirmation that the interested couple, a doctor and professor, wanted to view the apartment next week. Anna clicked reply and wrote, "Schedule the viewing as soon as possible. I want to move this forward." Closing the laptop, Anna felt a strange relief. The painful birthday party had clarified one thing: she could no longer sacrifice herself to salvage a relationship ruined by disrespect. David had chosen Sarah, and Sarah had decided to exploit her. Now Anna chose herself. She walked to her easel, picked up a brush, and began painting a canvas of dark hues, interspersed with bright streaks, as if telling the story of a woman breaking free from darkness. Each stroke was a vow that she would no longer be defined by lies or betrayal. The plane took off from O'Hare Airport in Chicago, carrying Anna Bennett away from the turmoil and pain of recent months. At 60, this was her first solo trip taken for herself and not for family or anyone else. As the city lights faded through the plane's window, Anna felt an odd liberation, as if leaving behind an old version of herself, the woman who always put others' needs first. Her destination was Florence, Italy, the city of art and dreams she had longed to explore since her days at the Chicago Art Institute. The decision wasn't impulsive. After David's fateful birthday party, where Anna learned the harsh truth of Sarah's manipulation and David's complicity, she had contacted Margaret Lee to hasten the apartment sale. Margaret arranged a viewing with the prospective buyers, a doctor and professor, and things were moving quickly. Anna wanted to leave Chicago before facing David and Sarah's inevitable reactions, seeking a place to heal and rediscover herself. As the plane landed in Florence, Anna stepped out with a small suitcase and a new sketchbook. The Italian air carried scents of sun lavender and espresso. She rented a small apartment near Piazza della Signoria, where ancient statues and street music created an inspiring ambiance. Each morning, Anna woke early, brewed a strong Italian coffee, and sat by the window to sketch. Her brushstrokes, once shaky, now carried confidence, though still imperfect. She drew Florence's red-tiled roofs, the bridges over the Arno River, and local faces, each sketch a step toward reconnecting with her buried passion. One afternoon, while sketching at a cafe near the Duomo, Anna met Sofia, the owner of a small gallery in Florence's outskirts. Sofia, an Italian woman with neatly tied silver hair and wise eyes, noticed Anna's work. "You paint with emotion," Sophia said in accented English after asking to see her sketchbook. "It's not a perfect technique, but every stroke has a story." "Who are you and why do you paint?" Anna hesitated, then shared part of her story, her years of sacrifice for family, the betrayal by her son and daughter-in-law, and her quest to reclaim herself. Sophia listened, nodding, as if familiar with such tales. "Art isn't just painting," she said, touching Anna's hand. "It's how we heal, how we retell our story. You're not a tourist playing at being an artist. You're an artist finding your path again." Sophia's words warmed Anna's heart. She spent more time painting in her apartment piazza's museums and churches. At the Uffizi Gallery, standing before Botticelli's Birth of Venus, Anna felt inspired. She sat and sketched her own version, adding bold colors to reflect her inner turmoil, hurt anger, but also hope. While Anna immersed herself in art, emails from Margaret Lee brought news from Chicago. The couple had offered above the asking price and negotiations were smooth. However, Margaret warned that Sarah had discovered the viewing and was pressuring to delay the sale. "She called me, demanding to see a lease," Margaret wrote. "I clarified, there's no formal lease, just a temporary agreement, but be prepared, they won't let this go easily." Anna read the email, a dark cloud briefly crossing her mind, but she brushed it aside. In Florence, thousands of miles away, Sarah's schemes seemed insignificant. She replied to Margaret, "Proceed with the sale. I trust you to handle it." Closing her laptop, she returned to her easel, painting a woman standing amid sunflowers, her gaze skyward, a symbol of Anna learning to stand tall. One evening, strolling along the Arno River, Anna received a text from Emily Anna, an update Sarah's doubling down on the unstable narrative, saying you're selling the apartment out of jealousy. But there's talk she's seeing another man, a senior lawyer at her firm. David seems clueless. Anna paused by the Ponte Vecchio, watching lights reflect on the water. The news didn't surprise her, but stirred pity for David. He had believed Sarah, but now he might be her next victim. Yet Anna refused to be pulled into guilt. She had spent too long prioritizing others' happiness. Now she focused on herself. She continued walking, entering a small craft shop. There she bought a premium watercolor set and a wooden frame for her first completed Italian painting, a view of Piazza della Signoria at sunset. Anna hung the painting in her apartment, gazing at it with pride she hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just art, it was proof she was coming alive again. Anna sat by the window that night, watching Florence's twinkling lights. She opened her sketchbook and wrote, "I am living, not just existing." The distance from Chicago had clarified her worth, and each day in Italy was a step toward becoming the woman she always wanted to be, not David's mother, not James's wife, but Anna, an artist, a free woman. Anna's final days in Florence passed like a dream, with golden sunlight streaming through cobbled alleys and church bells echoing. Now accustomed to the city's slow rhythm, Anna Bennett felt reborn. She sat on her small apartment's balcony each morning, sketching Italy's scenes from vibrant red rooftops to ancient bridges over the Arno. Her paintings weren't just images, but fragments of her soul pieced back together after Chicago's wounds. While Anna immersed herself in art, emails from Margaret Lee brought news that the downtown Chicago apartment sale was nearly complete. The couple, doctor and professor, had signed a contract at a price exceeding expectations, with only Anna's final signature pending. But Margaret warned that Sarah had sent a legal letter claiming she and David had a right to stay based on a verbal promise of a long-term agreement. Anna's lawyer, Robert Hayes, swiftly dismissed it, presenting evidence of the temporary deal from 3 years ago. "They have no legal ground," Robert wrote. "But Sarah's trying to stall. Prepare for a confrontation." Anna read the email in a small cafe near the Uffizi Gallery where she often sketched. Sipping espresso, she felt an odd calm. In Florence, thousands of miles away, Sarah's ploys seemed weightless. Anna replied briefly, "Finalize the sale. I'll be back in Chicago next week to sign." She closed her laptop and resumed sketching a woman in a lavender field, gazing at the horizon, a symbol of her quest for freedom. Through short email exchanges with Emily, Anna learned that David and Sarah's life in Chicago was unraveling. Emily reported that Sarah had left David and moved in with Douglas Fleming, a senior lawyer at her firm. Rumors of Sarah's manipulation and lies spread in Chicago's legal circles, tarnishing her reputation. Now alone in a small Medford apartment, David took a tutoring job to make ends meet. He looks worn out, Emily wrote. He's realizing his mistakes. One evening, as Anna packed for her return to Chicago, her phone rang with a call from David. She hesitated, watching his name flash on the screen, torn between pain and hope. Finally, she answered. David's voice was hoarse, as if he hadn't slept in days. "Mom." He said, "I need to talk to you," devoid of his usual arrogance. Anna sat on the bed, gripping the phone. "Go ahead, David." He took a deep breath. "Sarah. She cheated on me with Douglas, her boss. I found messages on her phone weeks ago, but didn't want to believe it. I chose to trust her just like I trusted her about you." His voice broke, heavy with regret. "I'm sorry, Mom. I was wrong to side with her, to let her say those awful things about you." David's apology was like a breeze easing some of Anna's wounds, but she didn't rush to forgive. She had learned that love didn't mean ignoring hurt. "You hurt me deeply, David," she said, calm but firm. "It's not just Sarah's words, but you choosing her over me after everything I've done for you." "I know," David replied, choking up. "I got caught up in the life Sarah painted, connection, status, admiration. I thought that's what I wanted. But I was wrong, Mom. So wrong." Anna stayed silent, letting David's words settle. She recalled the young David running to her after scraping his knee and drawing clumsy pictures to make her smile. But the man on the phone wasn't that boy. He had grown, made mistakes, and now faced the consequences. "I don't know where we go from here, David," she said finally. "I need time, and you need time to understand yourself." The call ended, and Anna sat in her Florence apartment, gazing at the city's twinkling lights. David's apology was a step forward, but she knew mending their bond wouldn't be easy. She had resolved not to let blind love lead her to sacrifice herself again. She closed her suitcase, preparing for the flight back to Chicago, where she would finalize the apartment sale and face what remained of her past. As the plane landed at O'Hare, Anna felt a shift within herself. Chicago's skyscrapers and bustling pace no longer felt stifling. She drove home, stopping at the Chicago Art Center to pick up materials for her upcoming art class. She had become a standout for her age, and her emotionally charged paintings in class Pain, Liberation, Hope. Her teacher, Jacob, a middle-aged man with warm eyes, had said, "Anna, your work tells a story. That's something no one can teach." At home, Anna unpacked and hung her Florence painting, a woman in a lavender field, in the living room, replacing an old family photo. It wasn't just art, but a reminder that she was building a new life centered on herself. That night, an email from Robert confirmed the apartment sale would close in days. Sarah and David had been notified to vacate within 60 days. Anna knew this would hurt David, but it was necessary. She had given him too much, and now he needed to stand alone. As she turned off the light to sleep, Anna looked at the painting, feeling a peace she hadn't known in years. Florence had given her strength to start anew, and Chicago would be where she made it real. Autumn in Chicago brought cool breezes, scattering vibrant red maple leaves across the streets. Anna Bennett stood in her suburban living room, her eyes tracing the painting on the wall, a woman in a lavender field painted in Florence, now a symbol of her rebirth. 2 years after Sarah called her food inedible, the fateful evening, Anna had transformed outwardly into a woman who lived fully for herself, no longer the submissive mother or wife, but an artist, a woman embracing her own path. The downtown Chicago apartment had long been sold, and the proceeds gave Anna financial independence she had never dared dream of. She had used part of it to convert James's old study into a small art studio where natural light poured through large windows, illuminating her watercolor paintings in progress. Her works, rich with emotions of pain, liberation, and hope, had gained attention in Chicago's art community. A small gallery on Newberry Street invited her to a show for late bloomers artists, rediscovering their passion after 50. At 62, Anna felt her heart rejuvenate with each brushstroke. That morning, Anna prepared for a painting class she taught at the Chicago Community Center. She had become a beloved instructor for her skill and for inspiring students, many of whom had also set aside dreams for family duties. She stood before a diverse group in class, from young beginners to older adults like herself, all eager with brushes and palettes. "Today, paint something that makes you feel alive," Anna said, her voice warm yet commanding. "It doesn't need to be perfect, just true to your emotions." As the class ended, a middle-aged student, Clara, approached Anna shyly. Mrs. Anna, I want to say, you inspire me. I stopped painting when I got married, but seeing how you live and how you paint, I feel I can start again. Anna smiled, placing a hand on Clara's shoulder. It's never too late to be yourself, she said, realizing her journey wasn't just about healing herself, but lighting the way for others. At home, Anna received a letter from the Newberry Gallery. Carla, the owner, announced that two of Anna's paintings had been selected for a New England artists exhibition at a small Boston museum. Anna could hardly believe her eyes. She held the letter sinking onto the sofa, feeling the world open. From a woman once deemed invisible, she was now leaving her mark through her art. That night, Anna prepared dinner for herself, the roast Sarah had mocked 2 years ago. This time, she cooked it for herself, savoring each bite in the quiet of her home. While eating, she received a text from David. Mom, I heard about the Boston exhibition. I'm so proud of you. You deserve this. Anna smiled, warmth spreading through her. Her relationship with David had slowly mended after tough months. Initial coffee meetings were awkward, filled with uneasy silences, but they learned to speak honestly over time. David admitted his mistake in trusting Sarah, and Anna confessed to overindulging him, neglecting to set boundaries. David now lived a simpler life in Medford, working as a teacher and tutor. He had started dating Grace, a kindergarten teacher with a gentle, genuine demeanor, unlike Sarah. Anna had met Grace once and liked her warm, sunlit smile, so different from Sarah's calculated one. I've learned a lot from my mistakes, Mom, David said at a recent dinner. I want to be someone you're proud of. Anna said nothing, only held his hand, feeling their bond rebuild on honesty and respect. Sarah had vanished from Anna's life. After parting with Douglas Fleming, her reputation in Chicago's legal circles crumbled due to whispers of her manipulation and lies. Anna felt no joy in Sarah's downfall. She had moved past the need for revenge. Instead, she pitied someone who had everything but lost it to greed and selfishness. Anna stood entering her studio where new paintings awaited completion for the upcoming exhibition. She played soft jazz, picked up a brush, and began painting a path leading to the sea with a fiery sunset on the horizon. Each stroke affirmed that she had reclaimed herself through art and how she chose to live. She was no longer the woman who existed to please others, but an artist, a teacher, a free woman. As Chicago's lights twinkled outside, Anna received an email from James requesting a meeting to discuss something important. She read it, then quietly deleted it. She had forgiven James for the years he made her feel small, but she had no desire to revisit the past. Their marriage was a closed chapter, and Anna was content with the peace of her independence. She stepped into the backyard where late-season daisies bloomed despite the cold. Sitting with a glass of wine, Anna gazed at the starry sky, reflecting on her journey from an invisible woman, hurt by betrayal, to a strong one living her passion. She smiled, whispering, "This is me, and I am enough." That night, as Chicago slept, Anna returned to her studio, continuing to paint the sea path. Each stroke was a promise to herself to keep painting, living, and being Anna Bennett, the woman who found her light amid the shadows of her past.